Hey guys, welcome to episode number 1 of the Road to Roth video series.
There's nothing in our sport like running into that stadium. That crowd is they just erupt. I mean, I was just listening for the crowd. I just knew I was getting close. I didn't know where it was. Just couldn't wait to run in there.
When they really need to be reinvigorated, they go to the finish line and watch people come across that finish line and watch their face light up and watch what it means to them.
Oh my God, this race is better than I ever imagined. And I always said at that point, one day I am coming to Roth and I'm coming to win this race.
I wrote down what I want to talk about in episode number 1, and that includes just a little brief overview of the 2019 season. Not so much about how I did ranking-wise or anything, but just where I'm coming from an athlete's perspective, just so you can kind of get an idea and gauge where you are in relationship to where I have been in my journey to Roth. Now, another thing I wanted to do was go over the current training schedule, as well as what's ahead as we forecast to Challenge Roth 2020. I also want to touch base on nutrition because I think that's a really important concept that we should all kind of nail down. And lastly, just cover any motivational things I want to touch base on. And that'd be the wrap of the episode number 1. So talking about a brief overview of the 2019 season. So without getting too into the weeds here, I did 2 70.3 Ironmans as well as multiple Olympic and sprints throughout the year. So it was a pretty busy year race-wise, I should say. And of course I made some PBs along the way, but how I went about it, I think, is what a lot of typical age groupers would go about it if they didn't have any guidance. So I really pushed, of course, being a time-starved triathlete, I really pushed my training. And how I would do this is I would do early mornings, so I would try and get up before my daughter and my wife were awake. And I would get up around, say, 4 in the morning. I'd try and get stuff done. I would do a 3-hour bike ride or something. And I would really go excessive on the training that day. And then I'd get myself so tired because it'd be 3 hours plus intensity involved in that I would be so burnt out by the next day. So I'd have to have a couple days recovery if I didn't get sick. So I would have a big training day, few days off, another big training day, few days off, and then throw in a couple of sleepless nights in there, and it's just a recipe for sickness. So I think the first half of the season I was getting sick at least once a month, and I'm talking like fever, bedridden. So it was just not a good training recipe or something. It wasn't sustainable by any means. So I was getting those big training blocks in, but I sort of started to follow this, well, a number of things, I should say. There's the 80-20 rule, which I find a lot of pro triathletes have been saying they do on the podcast. So it means 80% of your training you're doing is easy, and you want to keep the easy days easy, and then 20% of it's going to be hard, and keep those hard days hard. Now, I didn't have any of that easy. I was always high heart rate, high intensity, and trying to throw in volume on top of that. And their consistency wasn't there. So I think a lot of age groupers struggle with that proponent of their training. So now, time to introduce James Loaring, who's my coach now from Team LPC. What he's taught me is he's brought my training into 6 days a week. So I have 1 day complete recovery. Now these 6 days I'm doing nice consistent training. So I'm averaging right now, it's November and the race is in July. So I'm averaging about 6 days a week, and I'm averaging right now 8 hours of training. So break that up over 6 days. It's not looking too bad. So I've been doing 1 swim session, maybe 2 if I'm lucky on a given week, but 1 swim session a week. Now, that's more my judgment call over James's. Now, I'm sure he would like me to do more swimming, but given my circumstance, and I think a lot of age groupers can resonate with this part, is that I live about 20 minutes away from the nearest pool. So for me to go take 20 minutes drive there, swim for an hour, 20 minutes back on a already somewhat busy schedule, I really become tight for time. So I always kind of weigh that benefit of, would I benefit more from either more active recovery or get that same amount of time into a bike or a run session. So I've been kind of weighing those things out right now. And because we're so far out in the season, we're thinking it's okay to do the 1 swim a week right now. Get in the 2,400 meters in that swim. If I can get the time, I'll go do a second one. But right now, it's all about just sustainability and trying to keep focused long term, right? So at the end of the day, we know it's going to be a 4K swim, just under 4K swim. I've done that before, so I did that last year, open water, and although don't get me wrong, it's challenging, it's hard, but it was doable. So I know that's going to be done already. So that's kind of my methodology behind that. Now, would I recommend you would only do 1 day a week? That's totally, it all depends on how you are as a swimmer. Now, if you need a lot of work on swimming, maybe I suggest doing more than once a week. But again, I'm not taking it from a coach perspective. I'm just kind of letting you guys know our current journey right now, what's working for me. So one swim a week right now, maybe two, and then the rest is focus on bike splits and run splits. Right now, I'm not going over an hour and 20 in bike length, and same with runs. I'm not doing over an hour really. So it's just a matter of getting those high intensity days mixed in with consistency and making sure I get active recovery. So that includes sleep. And then after every workout I've been doing now, I've been using the Ultragen Recovery Drink, which is by First Endurance Canada. So I've really come to realize that your body takes a big hit when you train, and don't feel it. So that's one thing I've been making sure I've been active on, and making sure I get some nutrition right away or as soon as I can after the workout. So Ultragen works really well. So I'm a big fan of that, and I use that almost, like I said, after every workout. I guess it's over an hour long. So I definitely recommend that if you guys are looking for a nutritional product, or of course, just eat a good quality meal if you can, if you're available to, right after every workout. So that's kind of my takeaway from the 2019 season. Another couple of things I've taken away from that is that I was really exhausted after the half Ironman. So I'm not talking about, like, I know they're hard, so don't get me wrong, but swim was great. Bike, I was coming off the bike really fatigued, and that shouldn't be the case because I'm a pretty strong cyclist. Now, what I've realized from JP from Brown Sports, he's a bike fitter, and he realized just in photos of my bike that he saw my saddle was just angled too far down, and what happened in Lake Placid, perfect example, I ended up getting numbness to both my feet and the toes, and to the point where I felt like I had rocks in my shoes going into the run. I thought I was almost gonna have to kind of give up because I thought I literally had black toes. So nonetheless, 2 kilometers in, I kind of got blood flow back in the run, and my feet were fine. But nonetheless, that was causing a lot of problems on the bike for me. So bike fit is really huge, is what I've kind of learned from that. So I'm working on a bike fit as we speak. Now, that's one key takeaway I can highly recommend everyone is take the time to get a bike fit. If you're noticing you're feeling numbness or pains in certain areas on the bike, then stay on top of that and get on that early, because you're going to notice it in a race for sure. And that's going to affect your run as well. And another thing I realized in 2019 was my heart rate zones. Because I was always doing pure high intensity, I was only ever training high heart rate. I literally never trained low heart rate at all in triathlon. So a big thing this year was making sure my easy days are easy and keeping my heart rate low, because when you look at it from an aerobic and anaerobic state of triathlon, Ironman, long distance triathlons, they all consist of low heart rate aerobic function. And I was never training that. I was always doing anaerobic because I was doing high intensity stuff all the time. So at the end of the day, if you want to do well at long distance, you're going to have to build up that aerobic foundation. So that does mean those low heart rate days are super important. So that's just another key takeaway that I've learned over the 2019 season. If you want to do sprint triathlons, then definitely ramp up that heart rate in training. So if you want to do longer distance, it's good to get those easy and longer days in when you can. So I just kind of want to touch base on those. Those are my key takeaways from the 2019 season. Now, if you guys have any setbacks in your lives, I can name a couple that were in mine. Now, throughout 2019, I kept getting, on the side from actually getting sick from training, I got really, really sick with ulcerative colitis. I was diagnosed and kind of went through quite a few series of medications over the year. And in doing so, it all kind of actually both times evolved around when I was doing the 70.3 racing. So nonetheless, I went through 2 rounds of prednisone, which is a steroid, and it was just, it's terrible for the body. I completely had to switch my nutrition. So I went gluten-free, I went dairy-free, and it actually made a huge difference. And because I was avoiding lots of foods, I started eating a lot healthier, and I found overall that made a big difference. But just to kind of let people know that everyone out there has setbacks in some way or form. So I know you're probably listening and you could think of a couple setbacks you have in your life. And I just wanted to say that you guys will be able to get through those. You might not be able to train as easily as the person next to you because they don't have nearly the same setback as you. But that's not the point. The point is that if you set that goal for yourself, and however long it takes you to do just get out there and go do it, right? Now, that's what I did with, my diagnosis this year. There's a lot of setbacks I had in my training, but, we roll with the punches, and I'm working through that now. It's getting better, and hopefully it's all better by 2020. So the thing is, you just never know with medical issues. So that's something I just kind of want to pass on everyone, is just a little bit of motivation. And one book that I found really helped me was David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me. So if you're in a position, something's bothering you, or you have a setback or anything, if you can listen to the book David Goggins Can't Hurt Me through audiobook on your next long ride. It's 13 hours, so it's a really long book, but it is super motivational, and he's kind of been through hell and back, and he's had just about everything happen to him, and he still set his goals and kept at it. So that's super motivational. So if you guys want a little piece to read, then definitely check that out. Now, what lies ahead here? So looking at my schedule, we're expecting our second child in beginning of April. So when you look at it from a training perspective, I'll be able to train well up until April. Come April, I'm probably, just based off having the first child, I know the second child, I probably won't get a whole lot of sleep, and training quality will go down. I'll try and get some in when I can, but it's going to go down. And then I'm going to have to slowly ramp back up May and June to be ready for the race in July. So is it ideal? No. But what's going to happen is I'm going to try and do the 70.3 Chattanooga, Tennessee race in May. That'll be mid-May. March, I'm going to be doing around the Bay 30K. It's a run race only. So I might throw in another sprint or Olympic in between there in June. But other than that, like it's training and family time. That's going to be the big juggle going into next year, as well as, of course, everyone knows work. So I have a full-time job, and I also do winter snow plowing. So I keep busy with it, just I'm sure like many of you do with your full-time jobs, and it's just the way it goes, right? But we, again, roll with the punches. And what's ahead, I guess, we're going to expect to see the training volume ramp up. As we get closer to Challenge Roth, we're going to see race specificity kick in the training. So right now I'm just doing consistency and getting quality intensity training in with the adequate recovery needed. Now, as we get closer to the race, we're going to be switching more specific to the full distance triathlon race. So you're going to see longer volume days, maybe lower heart rate, or, tempos focused at what your race pace is going to look like. So that's all to come in further episodes as we get to that point. But just to kind of let you guys know what's ahead training-wise, that's what we're looking at right now. Now, lastly, just kind of wanted to cover nutrition. I briefly touched on, I've cut out gluten and dairy, and it's made a world of difference for me. Now, that was just because of my medical reasoning. But I also realized that if you guys are struggling with certain nutritional habits, then what I would definitely recommend is there's lots of things you can do. You can go see a naturopath or see a nutritionist. There's lots of avenues where people can help you with your diet. Now, diet pays tenfold in not only performance, but it also will make sure that you have enough energy throughout the day, keep things consistent. It helps you balance your hormones. So things like if you're getting enough iron, if you're getting enough calcium, like all this kind of stuff, it makes a really big difference. So I actually found I was low iron, so I've been supplementing with iron pills, as well as trying to eat more red meats, things like that. Now, I was also low cortisol, which I know if you're really high cortisol or really low cortisol, it's not good. It's that balance in cortisol. So my naturopath helped me find this out through a series of blood work. And what this stems from is basically fight or flight mode. My body was in that sympathetic state for too long and pretty much just almost burnt out. Kind of stopped producing its own cortisol in a way, or high enough volume. So if you're like me, I was peaking in the morning and then slowly getting more tired. And by 3 p.m., 4 p.m., that's where I'd really crash. And that was due to simply I didn't have enough cortisol to really keep going. So if you are one of those people who might be crashing midday, maybe that's something else you can check through a naturopath. But so I've been taking some adrenal cortex supplementation just to help with that, making sure I get enough sleep and get adequate rest, drink lots of water. And the main thing is to try to reduce stress as much as possible. So now, lastly, I guess the on-course nutrition and training nutrition, the fuel I use for my racing, I do it all through First Endurance Canada. And I use the EFS Pro and EFS Liquid shots. So those are my two go-tos. And that provides me enough amino acids, the carbohydrate levels, calories. It does everything, and it tastes really good to me. Now, again, I can't just recommend that to you. You have to try it yourself. So if you want, try the First Endurance Canada, check out their website, and try out their supplements in training, because whatever you plan on using in your race day, of course, use it in training and get used to it. And hopefully it's something you like. And I've tested it all throughout the year, and I made a lot of errors in 2019 when it comes to racing, but nutrition was definitely on point. So I can't thank the guys at First Endurance Canada enough for helping me out with that and getting me on those plans. So I know some other fellow athletes like Jackson Laundry and Matt Hansen, they both use First Endurance products. So I definitely kind of took from their podcast episodes I had with them, I took their strategies and sort of tweaked it to my own. So if you're looking for a strategy, then I'd highly recommend listening to those 2 episodes, seeing what they have to say about them, and then kind of tweaking your own formula. So anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to say in today's episode. Now, keep this a little short, even though you might have found this was quite long. There's a lot of content to fit in for the first episode. So I kind of wanted to set the boundaries, set the path of what's to come in future episodes. So as I go through training more, I'm going to invite you guys into a look at what my training entails. So we'll pull up my Training Peaks accounts. We'll look at the calendar of training, what's ahead and what I've just went through, just so we can get a little more insight on how an age grouper who's time starved as well will do their training for their first full distance triathlon. So hopefully this helped you guys out a lot, and thanks for tuning in. And definitely be sure to subscribe to the Pace Racing YouTube channel, follow Challenge Roth on social media, as well as Pacing Racing on social media. And other than that, that's about it, guys. Thanks for tuning in and listening to me. And be sure to check out the Road to Roth podcast series as well to listen in to the pros and see what they have to say. Now, thanks so much, guys, and we'll talk to you next time. Cheers.